America and Islam are not exclusive and need not be in competition. Instead, they overlap and share common principles of justice and progress, tolerance, and the dignity of all human beings. I think what you're seeing is a profound recognition on the part of the American people that gays and lesbians and transgender persons are our brothers, our sisters, our children, our cousins, our friends, our co-workers, and that they've got to be treated like every other American. And I think that principle will win out. Americans still believe in an America where anything's possible. They just don't think their leaders do. As a nuclear power, as the only nuclear power to have used a nuclear weapon, the United States has a moral responsibility to act. We need to keep making our streets safer and our criminal justice system fairer, our homeland more secure, our world more peaceful and sustainable for the next generation. I believe in American exceptionalism, just as I suspect that the Brits believe in British exceptionalism, and the Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism. Tonight, we gather to affirm the greatness of our nation, not because of the height of our skyscrapers, or the power of our military, or the size of our economy. Our pride is based on a very simple premise, summed up in a declaration made over 200 years ago. There are patriots who opposed the war in Iraq, and there are patriots who supported the war in Iraq. We are one people, all of us pledging allegiance to the stars and stripes, all of us defending the United States of America. Our higher education system is one of the things that makes America exceptional. There's no place else that has the assets we do when it comes to higher education. People from all over the world aspire to come here and study here, and that is a good thing. This is the moment when we must build on the wealth that open markets have created and share its benefits more equitably. Trade has been a cornerstone of our growth and global development, but we will not be able to sustain this growth if it favors the few and not the many. The last thing you want to do is raise taxes in the middle of the recession, because that would just suck up and take more demand out of the economy and put businesses in a further hole. I found this national debt, doubled, wrapped in a big bow waiting for me as I stepped into the Oval Office. But what we can do, as flawed as we are, is still see God in other people and do our best to help them find their own grace. That's what I strive to do. That's what I pray to do every day. Let me be absolutely clear. Israel is a strong friend of Israel's. It will be a strong friend of Israel's under a McCain administration. It will be a strong friend of Israel's under an Obama administration. So that policy is not going to change. You can choose a future where more Americans have the chance to gain the skills they need to compete, no matter how old they are or how much money they have. Education was the gateway to opportunity for me. It was the gateway for Michelle, and now more than ever, it is the gateway to a middle-class life. There's not a liberal America and a conservative America. There's the United States of America. What I believe is that marriage is between a man and a woman. But what I also believe is that we have an obligation to make sure that gays and lesbians have the rights of citizenship that afford them visitations to hospitals, that allow them to transfer property between partners, to make certain that they're not discriminated on the job. You know, one of the things I think you understand as president is you're held responsible for everything, but you don't always have control of everything, right? No party has a monopoly on wisdom. No democracy works without compromise. But when Governor Romney and his allies in Congress tell us we can somehow lower our deficit by spending trillions more on new tax breaks for the wealthy, well, you do the math. I refuse to go along with that. And as long as I'm president, I never will. We can't get to the $4 trillion in savings that we need by just cutting the 12% of the budget That pays for things like medical research and education funding and food inspectors and the weather service. And we can't just do it by making seniors pay more for Medicare. We need to steer clear of this poverty of ambition, where people want to drive fancy cars and wear nice clothes and live in nice apartments, but don't want to work hard to accomplish these things. Everyone should try to realize their full potential. There is probably a perverse pride in my administration that we were going to do the right thing, even if short-term it was unpopular. And I think anybody who's occupied this office has to remember that success is determined by an intersection in policy and politics, and that you can't be neglecting of marketing and PR and public opinion. I would put our legislative and foreign policy accomplishments in our first 2 years against any president, with the possible exceptions of Johnson, FDR, and Lincoln, just in terms of what we've gotten done in modern history. But when it comes to the economy, we've got a lot more work to do, and we're gonna keep on at it. America is the student who defies the odds to become the first in a family to go to college, the citizen who defies the cynics and goes out there and votes, the young person who comes out of the shadows to demand the right to dream. That's what America is about. We need somebody who's got the heart, the empathy to recognize what it's like to be a young teenage mom, the empathy to understand what it's like to be poor or African American or gay or disabled or old. And that's the criterion by which I'll be selecting my judges. I see Americans of every party, every background, every faith who believe that we are stronger together. Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know. I know my country has not perfected itself. At times, we've struggled to keep the promise of liberty and equality for all of our people. We've made our share of mistakes, and there are times when our actions around the world have not lived up to our best intentions. When we think of the major threats to our national security, the first to come to mind are nuclear proliferation, rogue states, and global terrorism. But another kind of threat lurks beyond our shores. One from nature, not humans, an avian flu pandemic. Let us remember we are all part of one American family. We are united in common values, and that includes belief in equality under the law, basic respect for public order, and the right of peaceful protest. To avoid being mistaken for a sellout, I chose my friends carefully. The more politically active black students, the foreign students, the Chicanos, the Marxist professors, and structural feminists, and punk rock performance poets. I know that campaigns can seem small and even silly. Trivial things become big distractions. Serious issues become sound bites, and the truth gets buried under an avalanche of money and advertising. If you're sick of hearing me approve this message, believe me, so am I. Yes, we've still got more work to do. More work to do for every American still in need of a good job or a raise, paid leave or a decent retirement. For every child who needs a sturdier ladder out of poverty or a world-class education. For everyone who has not yet felt the progress of these past 7.5 years. My parents shared not only an improbable love, they shared an abiding faith in the possibilities of this nation. They would give me an African name, Barack or Blessed, believing that in a tolerant America your name is no barrier to success. And I will do everything that I can as long as I am President of the United States to remind the American people that we are one nation under God. And we may call that God different names, but we remain one nation. I cannot swallow whole the view of Lincoln as the great emancipator. You have young men of color in many communities who are more likely to end up in jail or in the criminal justice system than they are in a good job or in college. And, part of my job that I can do, I think, without any potential conflicts, is to get at those root causes. John Kerry believes in an America where hard work is rewarded, where the stakes are the highest. In the war on terror, we cannot possibly succeed without extraordinary international cooperation. Effective international police actions require the highest degree of intelligence sharing, planning, and collaborative enforcement. It was not a religion that attacked us that September day. It was Al-Qaeda. We will not sacrifice the liberties we cherish or hunker down behind walls of suspicion and mistrust. I don't think marriage is a civil right, but I think that being able to transfer property is a civil right. After 2014, we will support a unified Afghanistan as it takes responsibility for its own future.